Now we shall watch the flight mechanic doing his part of the inspection. And we pick him up while he is doing his first job, the air screw group. He, like the rigger, will have referred to the change of serviceability and repair log before starting his inspection, as do the other tradesmen. When the air screws are operated over loose aerodrome surfaces, or in wind or hail, the edges of the blades may become pitted or ragged. This encourages the development of fatigue cracks, and failure may result. It is therefore important that the NCO's attention should be directed to any deep pits or ragging of the blade edges. He tests each blade to see that there is no shake in the hub and no excessive backlash. The spinner must be secure and free from cracks. He checks this and then looks at the rear of the air screw to see that there is no sign of an oil leak. So much for the air screw. The power plant follows. The cowling is removed so that he can get at the coolant pump and header tank, which are next on the list for inspection. He examines the coolant pump for leakage at the gland and gives the greaser not more than half a turn. Should there be any leakage at the gland, he makes any adjustment necessary. The gland nut must be turned by hand only, and this must be done when the engine is warm. Checking the level of the coolant in the header tank, however, must be done when the engine is cold. Ethylene glycol is the coolant used. The system should be filled to the level of the filler cap, which is so placed that it automatically provides sufficient airspace above it to allow for expansion. A valve is incorporated in the header tank to ensure that excess pressure is released from the system. He replaces the engine cowlings and examines them and their fastenings for damage and security. He then gets into the cockpit. He has satisfied himself that the tanks are full, and he operates the switches of the fuel contents gauge for each tank to see that they register correctly. While in the cockpit, he checks the radiator fairing flap control. So far as the fuselage is concerned, the point for examination is the fuel tank, to see that the filler caps are properly secure and that the vent system is clear. He examines the radiator fairings under the starboard plane and sees that it is secure and undamaged. and with the assistance of the rigger in the cockpit, he sees that the flap operates correctly. He inspects the oil cooler to see that it is not fouled or leaking. Then the air intake, putting his arm right up to the gauze in case it might be fouled by grass cuttings or other substances drawn in. That finishes his inspection so far as he can go inside the hangar. He will want to do one or two more things when the engine is run up outside, but we'll refer to that later. In the meantime, we see him looking round to ensure that no tools or rags are left lying on the engine. And then we leave him to complete and sign the maintenance form. The armourer starts his inspection by seeing that the firing button on the control column is in the safe position. He should then ascertain that the guns are unloaded and the ammunition containers empty or removed. Here he is unloading one of the guns by removing a round from its breech. As the containers are not empty, he removes them before continuing his inspection. Then he checks the operation of the firing button for the Browning guns and ensures that fire and safe and rear sear release units are operating correctly. He sees that the sliding sunscreen for the gun sight is clean and operates easily, and that the catch operates efficiently. He sees that the GM2 or GM3 reflector sight is illuminating correctly, and that the dimmer switch is operating efficiently, and checks for deterioration of the graticule. He sees that the firing button is left in the safe position. If the guns have not been fired, he inspects them for security, pulls back the breech block, and pulls through the barrel with a cleaning rod and 4x2. If the guns had been fired, he would remove the recording portions and clean them with a dry rag, de-nickel the barrels and gauge them, then oil and reassemble. He examines the blast tubes for security and the fairings on the leading edge. Lastly, he ensures that the magazine doors and gun panels register correctly and are properly secured. Then the armourer, in his turn, completes and signs the maintenance form.